Greetings everyone, it's Steve with Up From Down here. Today we are visiting Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois, just outside Chicago. There's quite a few coasters here. We got a lot to pack into the day, so let's check it out. Our first coaster today is Goliath, touted as the world's longest drop in a wooden roller coaster and fastest wooden roller coaster. While most of the structure is wood, it does utilize RMC's steel chopper track, so it is technically an RMC wooden roller coaster. And it is very fast, very zippy. There's a lot of head chopper moments, a lot of air time. So it's a very fun ride. The only downside really was that it's a bit brief, but still loads of fun. Definitely a top attraction here at the park. X-Flight is the park's B&M winged coaster. In these coasters, you sit off to either side of the track, so you get a little more force in the different elements than you might if you're sitting right on top of the track. This coaster was pretty fun. There were a few near miss moments between support columns and thematical elements. When you first start the ride, after the lift, you rotate upside down and then dive, which is pretty common on these style coasters. That's a lot of fun, and it's pretty speedy throughout, right up till the last helix at the end. It's one of the more compact layouts I've seen. However, I've only been on one other winged coaster that I recall, and that was Gatekeeper at Cedar Point, and I'd say I like this one a little bit more. It's a little more forceful and speedy throughout, so definitely a ride to hit. Demon is an arrow looper slash corkscrew coaster. There it is out there. It is in fact closed today. The Raging Bull is Six Flags Great America's tallest coaster. It stands just a little over 200 feet tall, travels a little faster than 70 miles per hour, and for being the first hyper twister coaster out there, this thing is quite a bit of fun. It's very fast, and you transition from uphill to a downhill pretty quick on this thing. It's not necessarily all floater air time, it's just some quick jerks downward, and it's a ton of fun. The end of the ride here has this sort of figure eight, but more than figure eight helix corner pattern. That's also a great way to end and finish off the ride with some more thrills. We got a go-kart track here at Great America. There's some nice theming right there. See those Looney Tunes characters? The rest of the theme is asphalt, and oh, here we go. As is typical, we don't see any guests riding the go-karts, but the team members are. There's no way Six Flags makes money on go-karts. But hey, props to the team members. Getting paid to drive go-karts around. I'll take it. Max Force is the park's S&S launched roller coaster. This coaster launches you from 0 to 78 miles per hour via the fastest acceleration in North America, so that launch is very quick. It gets you up to speed very fast, which means it's not a long launch like something like Top Thrill Dragster number 2 or King to Cop, but it will get you up to speed real fast. Look at that thing go. I like that nice explosion of air at the end. It is a pneumatic air-powered launch, and it is quite the quick, zippy ride. Even the 0G roll coming up is pretty fun. It's a very short ride. Probably spent just as much time braking on the ride. The brakes start right there as you do actually enjoying it. But it's a fun, quick ride. It's definitely the longest ride in the park. Line-wise, sorry, the longest length line in the park. Probably any day. One train operations don't help speed it along any, that's for sure. The fairgrounds area is very lively this morning, as you can see by all these shuttered doors. There is one game available to play over here though. The single rider lines that I found at this park, they don't really specify what ride you're in line for, so I think I might be in line for Superman, which is in that direction, but there's also a Batman coaster in there, so I will find out which one I end up on. But good news, there is a single rider line for something. Turns out I was in line for the Dark Knight coaster, which is an indoor Wild Mouse coaster. Typical Wild Mouse coaster, but it has some theming that makes it a little more fun than an outdoor one. Superman Ultimate Flight is the park's B&M flying coaster. I love this style coaster. You ask me, any Superman should be this style because you literally are flying and you feel like you're Superman. They're a ton of fun. The pretzel loop where you kind of head up and dive head over heels is my favorite element. It takes the breath out of you and it makes it hard to breathe, but in a fun way. So definitely hop on. They do have a clone of this at Six Flags Great Adventure, and I believe the one at Six Flags Over Georgia is either the same or similar, but that one was in fact closed when we went there in the winter. The Joker is the park's S&S free spin coaster. If you don't mind a few dips and a few flips, these are a good time. While Batman the Ride may be a pretty common sight at many Six Flags parks, this one here is historically significant because it was the first inverted looping coaster. So this is the first B&M inverted coaster out there. Yes, it is a similar ride to the other ones you may have ridden, but you can ride this one knowing it was the first. I don't know what it is about the Batman rides, but they always consistently seem to have some sort of attempt at a theme in the queue. It's nice. I just don't know what makes them so special. Flash Vertical Velocity is the park's Intamin impulse coaster. I don't want to say these are a dying breed, but you don't see them being built anymore, so if you've never ridden one of these, take your opportunity to ride. You sit under the track and launch back and forth a couple times. It's an alright ride. Just be advised, there are areas of the park and certain rides that only open certain hours of the day, and it seems to be a trend this summer. Little Dipper here is a kid-sized wooden roller coaster. American Eagle was the first wooden coaster built by Intamin, and not just the first, but technically the second, because it's a racing coaster, meaning they built two right next to each other. Unfortunately, they are just running one side today, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's typically the case. They were running the red side. It was a pretty enjoyable ride and smoother than an older PTC of the same age. It's in its 40s nowadays. The most fun part of the ride, I think, but also the roughest, was a big helix shortly after the first drop. Kind of up in the air. That would probably be a lot more fun if you were in fact racing too. There were a couple of mid and 2/3 of the way course brake runs where this ride could have had, a lot more length, but it was still an enjoyable ride. Don't sleep on this one. Found the train. The Viper is the only wooden roller coaster designed and built by Six Flags. That being said, it certainly uses PTC trains. It rides rougher than the American Eagle, but it's still an enjoyable ride. I give it a thumbs up. It was designed after the Cyclone, so it's kind of a modern take on the Coney Island Cyclone style wooden coaster. It's got some fun elements. There's a double down about halfway through the ride, and then there's one final pump of air time before the last corner. So again, overall a decent ride. While it's rough, it's not unbearable. All of the wooden coasters here, I say, are worth hopping on a ride. The Whizzer is a Schwarzkopf coaster. This is a coaster that I was saving till the end of the day in case I didn't have enough time to ride everything I wanted. And boy, am I glad that I did have time to ride it, because I had a ball on this thing. Let's start with the trains. They're set up kind of toboggan style like Space Mountain at Disney World, but they're much more spacious, like 2 times the size of those extra space seats on a plane. Plenty of room for you, and you can also ride with a second person in your lap area. And probably 2 adults could fit comfortably for the most part in those. And then it has a spiral lift, which you don't see too often. It's an electric-powered spiral lift. None of the drops are too steep, so this would be a good, second coaster for someone maybe who's graduating from the Little Dipper up to something a little more thrilling. It's definitely not too intense, and the spiral lift makes it seem like you're not quite as high. There is some fun, forceful banking on the corners, so this coaster really was a great time, and I'm so glad that I had time to ride it. The park has a pretty decent collection of classic flat rides. This here is called Triple Play here at the park. It's a clever name for it. River Rocker is not a pirate ship, it's a canoe ship. Pretty cool. And then right behind that, we have Ricochet, which you want to see what this does, I guess you're going to have to watch my video at Six Flags Darien Lake. Right at the entrance, they got a beautiful double-decker carousel here. The observation tower here at Great America, in fact, does run. I believe it came back online recently, so it'll give you some great views of the park from up high in gentle fashion, if that's your style. If we get lucky, we'll see one of these running at the Great Escape of Six Flags Park when we head there later this summer. I had to get a little footage of the crazy carts, this goofy kids car ride. Looks like everyone in the family can hop aboard. Justice League Battle for Metropolis is a Sally shooter ride that's better than you might expect for a Six Flags park. This spot in the park is kind of scenic, so I had to film it, because it's probably the only scenic spot we'll find. The Loggers Run says online it'll be open in the summer. It's mid-July, I'm not sure what summer is. Anyway, it's a log flume, but they do have one water ride open that I know of, and that is the Aquaman Splashdown, which is also kind of like a log flume. A fun way to get wet on a summer day is at the Aquaman, the park's flume ride. It's got a couple different drops on it, and it's a good little time. Always love a log flume. Now, in the past, I gave Six Flags an excuse for not having their River Rapids rides open because it was usually the winter or early spring, but it's mid-July, the perfect time for a water ride to be open, so what's the excuse this time? Just checking back in, it's mid-afternoon and this area is still closed except for this one game which no one is playing. To be fair, there were some games open and this one group of people playing this one particular game over here. These games are fun though, you roll the ball in the hole to try to get your car to win the race. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, they do have a Flavors of the World kind of food festival, drink festival to attend. It's a Tuesday, so that won't happen today. Looks like it could be a good time. They even have some live music and entertainment. All right, let's eat. Lunch was at JB's Barbecue and Sports Bar, and I know what you're thinking. Hey, Steve, remember St. Louis when you got the pulled pork and you didn't like it? Well, I decided to give them another chance. I've never seen a bad pulled pork sandwich in my life until Six Flags St. Louis, so I gave it another shot here. I'll tell you what, this one was not any better. Still dry, still flavorless. I did order a side of barbecue sauce to try to make it a little better. It did make it 1% better, but definitely don't get the pulled pork sandwiches here. I did grab a drink as well. The beer was definitely the best part, and the last thing I realized about this place is it's essentially a spot for dads to hang out. They got the sports games on TV and beer, so dads, here's your spot. Six Flags Great America does have a water park known as Hurricane Harbor, and this water park's pretty good. It's actually got a water coaster, a lazy river. I saw a little wave pool from up top of Raging Bull, as well as quite a few slides. So it looks like a pretty decent water park. It's about 75, 76 degrees today, and I saw little to no waits, so if it's not too hot out, you might not have to wait long in lines either. You guys are experts by now. The Emporium's going to be home to all sorts of gifts, from candy to plush to apparel, cups, and so much more. Back when I was a kid, you used to be able to steer little remote control boats in here. I actually have no idea, but I'm assuming that's what this was. But at least there's a lighthouse in this brown water. The Hometown Square Railroad station near the front of the park is also home to a stage featuring a neon night show. Weekends could be good, could be bad, I have no idea. Let me know if you've seen it. Oh, it turns out Neon Nights is a parade. Sorry, like I said, I don't explore parks too much until I get here. That way I can be surprised, both pleasantly and unfortunately. Okay, I did a little research for you. Neon Nights is a parade and it ends as a dance party. I guess it's something they used to have in years past that they brought back. Yeah, if you have checked it out, let us know if other people should stick around till closing time or, 90 minutes before to see this. There it is. No shows Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That's why we're not seeing it today. Munchies and hangovers, huh? Okay. The County Fair food court has pretty much all the Six Flags food brands you hate. Which one can I pain myself with for my dinner credit? Go Fresh, I figured try something different. Turkey flatbread, and it wasn't bad. It just tasted like bread that was flat. That's about it. The substance inside was barely nothing. There's a tiny bit of turkey, avocado, and bacon, and tomato. So yeah, not bad, but just tasted like bread and wasn't very much. But the fruit cup wasn't so bad. Hey, and free water, big tall glass of that. This has got to be one of the nicest, most pronounced first aids I've ever seen. I'm almost tempted to get hurt. All right, and that'll about wrap up our day here at Six Flags Great America. I really enjoyed this park. It has a great coaster lineup between Max Force and Goliath, Raging Bull. X-Flight was quite the fun ride. Even some of the hidden gems, wooden coaster wise, that's Sports Golf coaster. There really is a good coaster lineup here, and there's a mix of coasters too, you know, from some of the clones you see at other Six Flags parks, but also a lot of unique coasters that you're only going to find here. And the park itself thematically is what you expect from most Six Flags, where you have asphalt and concrete, so not much going on there, but definitely worth checking this place out. It's worth traveling to even if you're not from the area. Plenty of restrooms throughout the park, that's always nice. It wasn't a slow day here at the park, but I was surprised that it wasn't busier considering it's midsummer. I'm not sure if it was because it's a Tuesday or if this park just hasn't been extremely busy this year. The longest line we waited in was, in fact, for Max Force, which probably is going to be pretty common. We waited about 50 minutes, but everything else was probably 30 minutes or less in many cases. DC area seems to be the busiest, so maybe try to hit that earlier in the day or the back end of the park and kind of work your way towards that front end later on. I was surprised with how many things were closed. Not rides, I mean there were a few rides closed, but also just buildings in general. It seems the games were run by another company, so Six Flags hired an outside company to run those games, so they might still be hurting for staff. I'm assuming that's why a lot of things were still closed, but that is kind of sad to see midsummer, so hopefully that's something they can work out, or at least paint something pretty on the closed garage doors if they're going to be closed often. I'm sure on weekends it's a little more built up and more things are open, but again, it's midsummer, mid-July. You'd expect the entire park to look ready, presentable, and operational. But again, this is a great park. It's probably going to rank amongst my top 5 of Six Flags parks in the US if I were to make a guess, but there's still a few more to visit. We have actually only 3 left. I've actually hit all of these Six Flags parks now that are going to require me to fly. The rest of the parks are going to be within driving distance as I hail from New England. We still got Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey to check out, Great Escape, a Six Flags park in New York, and then, of course, my home Six Flags park, Six Flags New England. So we're getting there on our grand Six Flags tour in 1 year, but still more to come. Thanks so much for watching. What's that you say? A Larson Looper? Wow. Never seen one of these in a Six Flags park. At least this one has an awesome name. It's called the Mardi Gras Hangover. But I guess this one had a hangover today and called out of work because it is listed as not being open.